The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. The Center for Autism and Related Disorders advises working with a board-certified behavior analyst who has experience with autism before starting any intensive behavioral intervention. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at your own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod and we are webcasting to you live from the Center for Autism and Related Disorders headquarters in Tarzana, California. So thrilled to be here with you on this Thursday morning and so gratified that we have this opportunity, you and I, to converse in this way. We are going to be with you live for the next 2 hours talking about autism from a 360-degree perspective. And I know I say that most days, but especially today, you know, I love Dickens. It's the best of times, worst of times, right? So many different things that we have to talk about today, stories in the news to give you some updates. And boy, there's some really good news and there's some really devastating bad news as well. But hopefully we'll be able to put everything in a perspective that lets us all get back to the job at hand, which is making progress, right? A lot of different things that we're going to talk about today. But I remind you, whether you're a parent, teacher, practitioner, working with an individual on the spectrum, or you yourself are on the autism spectrum, that we want to be a resource here for you, a free resource to help you connect with answers to the questions that you have, give you a forum to talk about things that you're doing that are working, and have us all hold hands together on this journey so that we make that progress. Job number one, right? So this entire show is meant to be interactive. Emily's going to cycle through some of the different ways that you can get a hold of us here in the studio, some of the different ways that you can watch the show. While she's doing that, I'm going to remind you that there's only one way to watch us live, and that's at www.autism-live.com. When you go there, you'll see a box. It's a white box. There's, you know, a desktop and all these wonderful things, but there's a white box. That's your interaction box. Put your cursor there, type away, hit enter, and it shows up magically in real time on my screen when we're live. If we're not live, it will go into the cache so that I can see it when we come in the next morning. We had a bunch of questions during the night last night, and I know a lot of you attended the free webinar that was on our site yesterday at 3 o'clock, and I'm thrilled, and I hope you got some good information then. We're really trying to step it up and give you information for the kinds of things that you want, and I know that, you know, that's going to be different for different people. So use the live feature. Tell us what you're looking for. Email us, call us, do whatever you have to do, but let's converse. I really want to help to hook you up to the information that you need. And why am I the person doing that? Because I am surely not an expert in autism. Let's be 100% clear about that out the gate, right? But I'm a mom and I'm a former teacher and I'm an autism mom. I should specify that. My son was diagnosed with autism at the age of 2.5. He will be 10 in just a couple of short weeks. Don't get me misty. And my gratitude runneth over, because we're going to talk about some things and some people today that I go, wow, you know, there, but for the grace of God go I, because I got access. And it wasn't because I, you know, had more money in my bank account. I know that's the story we all like to tell each other, that, you know, because nobody can afford autism, but the people who must be getting that help must have more money. They must have done something. They must be related to somebody. They must have had money in an account. I'm sure there's a couple of those people running around, but I got to tell you, the vast majority of us didn't have the money, and we figured out how to get access. And everyone needs to be able to figure out how to get access. We're all working towards that goal for all of you to have access. And in the meantime, there are things that you can do until you get the full access, right? So we're going to talk about that and so many more things today. But I'm not an expert, but I got help. And my son is doing remarkably well because I got that help. My son is not one of those that are recovered. Let's be 100% clear about that too. But he is meeting his goals in a completely included neurotypical fourth grade class and doing really, really well. We have our challenges from time to time, but when I compare what our challenges were and what I thought they were going to be and what they are, there's no comparison. So I have a responsibility to be here and to pay it forward. I, like many of you and like many of the people that we talked to on the show, made that little bargain that I said, I will do everything that I can do to help my child, and then I got to turn around and help as many other people as I can. So that's why I'm here, and that's why you should feel free to use and abuse me and say, Shannon, I need some help with this. Yes, there are a lot of you writing in, and so it does take me some time, but please, and if I haven't responded to you, remind me, poke me. Don't feel bad about that. That's 100% why I'm here, is to try to help you. So, and to help all of us, because I want to learn too while I'm here, and that's a glorious thing. All about the learning. The learning has to continue. So let's learn something today. We always start with the jargon of the day. This is a word, a phrase, an acronym that we try to put into perspective. We give you an actual definition that is sometimes so jargon intensive that we really have a hard time figuring out what it means. And then we give you a working definition so that hopefully you get a better idea of what it means in relation to your individual child. All right. So our term today, and I'm going to ask Emily if she's able to put it up on the screen there. She is. Maybe not. There we are. I thought it was me. I thought maybe I hadn't launched my program. There it is. So our jargon term for today is response cost. Now, we talked earlier this week about token economies and how effective those can be, and that really the truth of the matter is that we're all functioning on a token economy, because that's what money is. It's just a placeholder for something that you can trade for something down the road, right? And we talk all the time about wanting to use positive reinforcement whenever possible. But there are times when we need some other methods, and this is where response cost comes in. And I would encourage you to remember that response cost is the last house on the block. Try everything else first, because everything else in terms of positive reinforcement has been shown to be more effective. But occasionally, and as kids get older, sometimes you go to response cost. So what in the hey nani nani is it? Let's look at our actual definition. Response cost: when a stimulus is taken away as a consequence of behavior, and the effect is to reduce the frequency of the behavior. So there is a cost in response to what has happened. So we're teaching consequences, right? But it is a punishment. And again, we don't advocate that we jump to punishment, even though if you were raised like I was, it seems like the first thing that your body goes, teach them a lesson. There are consequences for your behavior. We can't let them get away with that, right? But we know that that is not statistically and scientifically the most effective way to deal with things. The most effective way is that positive reinforcement. But sometimes, to get the job done, we go to response cost. So our working definition for response cost, making it a little bit simpler to understand. Another way to make behavior less frequent, it is the name given for removing reinforcement from children when they exhibit inappropriate behavior or fail to comply. Okay, so, and again, we can use this with a token economy. Now, earlier in the week, we talked about a token economy, and that if the child got a lesson right, they get the sticker, or they get the little thing on your phone. They get another one right, they get the sticker, and we know, we've talked to them about, you need 3 stickers, or you need 12 stickers, or you need 1,200 stickers in order to get this reinforcement, right? Well, we can do the flip with it as well. So if you know that there are behaviors that you don't want to see and you haven't been able to get them by giving, then what we can do, and I do this a lot when we're going to a birthday party, I will say there are behaviors that I want to see and there are behaviors that I don't want to see. And you can use them in conjunction or completely separate, whatever works better for you. But for instance, if we're going to go someplace to a birthday party and I want my son, I want to make sure that he's making eye contact with people, right? So I'm going to give give him a sticker for that. But if I see him, and I want to be very specific about what he loses a sticker for, let's say, for instance, that if he's being rude or impolite, that, then he loses a sticker for that. And you don't have to do them both at the same time. You could have it just be a negative. We're going to the store, and if I don't see these behavior, I'm giving you 3 stickers to start with. And if I don't see this behavior, this behavior, this behavior, then when we leave, you get X, Y, or Z because you still have all 3 of your stickers. A lot of time, what's really effective with my son is to give him 8 stickers and say, you have to have 5 left when we're done. So that gives him some leeway, because I'm not looking for a perfect child, because if I have a perfect child, then I have to be the perfect mother. And since that's not happening, right? So maybe he's got a little bit of latitude depending on what the behavior is that we're doing. Obviously, if it's something like kicking people, I'm not going to do that. But if it's, making good eye contact and noticing your surroundings, we all have peaks and lows with that. So you can use the response cost and see if it's something that's effective in maintaining the behavior. If the loss of the stickers or the loss of whatever it was they were going to trade the stickers for is really powerful enough, and if the child's skill level is appropriate, then it may be that it's motivating enough for them to not engage in a behavior or engage in a different behavior. But notice that I said if the child's skill level. We never want to be setting it up and saying, here, I've given you 5 stickers, and now you need to do calculus. I know you can't add yet, but do calculus, right? That would not make sense. But and that's an extreme example, but sometimes we expect behavior that isn't appropriate. You know what I mean? Expecting for a child. My son and I are reading Little House on the Prairie books, and they talk in the Little House on the Prairie books about how children should be seen and not heard. And of course, I don't think any of us subscribe to that anymore. And even though that at the time they said children should be seen and not be heard, there were so many times that Laura in the books would say something and then realize, okay, I got to work on that. We have to leave room for kids to be able to work on stuff, and we have to be giving them things that are appropriate. You don't ask a 2-year-old to fold their own clothes, right? I think you guys know what I mean by that. So response costs can be used with a token economy, and it can be very effective. However, the big asterisk here is we don't jump to the response cost. We want to see if we can make it happen, the behavior that we want to see happen, by reinforcing first instead of taking away. It's much more powerful, but sometimes you need to go here. All right. And I would encourage you to only do that with help and support, because it's so easy to have it spiral into, once you take everything away, here's the difficulty with punishment. If you say, okay, we're in the store and I gave you 8 stickers, you got to have 5 left, and they're having a really bad day and struggling with a whole bunch of things, and whatever the reinforcer isn't reinforcing enough, or they just flat blow it, and now they've lost 3 stickers and then they lose 1 more. So you got more shopping to do, and they know they don't have enough stickers left, and then where you go from there. And then you got a child who says, I got nothing to lose now. So now I'm really going to stop trying to control what, you know what I'm saying? So caution with the response costs. Last house on the block. Okay, we always have a question of the day for you, and it's been thrilling to see already you guys writing in, answering the question of the day. It seems to be a theme how you guys are answering it, but the question is, what is your child's favorite summer activity? And hopefully you guys, you've written in several ideas, but there is an overwhelming theme. We'll reveal that a little bit later, what you guys have mostly been responding with. But hopefully it'll give other people ideas about things that they can do, fun things that our kids really enjoy. And remember, all this week, as I'm about to say, our topic for the week, we always have a topic of the week, and our topic this entire week is summer plans. Because if we fail to plan, we plan to fail. It doesn't mean that the plans are written in stone and that they can't be moved around, but that if we have a bit of a plan, then in that moment when the energy isn't there, there or the creativity isn't there, you look at the calendar and go, right, that's what we're working on today. That's the fun that we're going to have today. And sometimes it just makes it that much easier. Other days you're going to say, yep, I'm just not up to that today. And that's okay too. But we make a plan. It's a good thing to do. Plans are good. And then we check to see if they're working. And if they're not, we let them go. There's our executive function, right? Okay, lots of exciting stuff going on in the studio today. We have the myth of the day coming up a little bit later on. We're going to do an update on the news because there was a lot of stuff in the news last night that we have to talk about briefly. And then we have two very special guests that are going to be here with us, a mom and a son, and they have a book that's out, Unintentional Humor. We've talked about it before on the show, and we're really thrilled to have them here with us in the studio. I think you're really going to enjoy this. It'll be a really fun segment. And a little bit later on, we have Breaking It Down with Angela, BCBA Board Certified Behavior Analyst Angela Persicke is going to be here with us, and she's going to be talking about summer plans too and how we ensure that we're making progress in those areas. So all of that and ever so much more. We're going to take a quick break and come back to update you on some of the news that happened since we left the show yesterday. And this is where I said, it's the best of times, worst of times. We have some really good news for you, some very uplifting and hopeful news, and some very particularly sad news. So stick with us.
Hi guys, welcome back. For the month of May, I thought it'd be really neat if we made our own bird feeders. What's cool about it is once it's done and it's hung in your front yard, backyard, balcony, or whatever outdoor area that you have, your kids will be able to observe the bird feeder and tap when they see birds coming over and feeding from it. Like, oh my gosh, oh, so exciting. Do you see that? Sorry, I got distracted. I'm just so excited about all the different birds I've been seeing now that I have a bird feeder hanging outside. Anywho, let's get started. The materials you'll be needing are 2.5 cups of birdseed, half a cup of boiling water, 2 packets of unflavored gelatin, a spatula, twine, scissors, wax paper, and cookie cutters. Alright, now that you got your materials, it's super easy. I have my boiling hot half cup of water, and I'm going to take my 2 packets of unflavored gelatin, and I'm going to pour them in and stir it. The reason I pour it in the water first all by itself is to make sure that the gelatin dilutes really well and I can stir it up real nicely. Now that it's been all stirred together, I'm going to take this liquid and pour it into the birdseed, making sure to scrape up all the gelatin that we diluted. Now I'm just going to stir it all up. Okay, now that this is all mixed up, I'm going to take my wax paper and put it on my table just so I don't make a mess. And then I'm going to take my cookie cutter and lay it down. I'm also going to take a piece of string and cut it, about 6 inches long. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill the cookie cutter halfway full with our birdseed mixture. And I'm going to take my string, fold it in half, I'm going to place it in the center. This way you can hang this up once it's done and dry. Okay, now that it's full, I'm just going to pack it in. So now that this is all compacted, it's going to take about 6 hours for the gelatin to get completely hard. If you take it out too soon, the whole thing's going to fall apart. So let's wait a little bit and I'll see you guys in a few moments. Alright, it's been 6 hours now, so let's see if this little guy worked out. So I'm just going to pull him up and pop him out, okay? And here's my finished bird feeder. All you have to do now is hang it outside and wait for all the great things you're gonna see. Like, ooh, I see another bird. This is so exciting. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the activity and keep me up to date with all the different birds that you and your child see outside your property. Until next time, craft on. Bye, guys.
Can you see me? Can you see me flying by your side?
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Shannon Penrod, and we needed to do a quick update on some news because a lot of stuff happened yesterday after we finished the show. The first thing and the most devastating thing is the worst of all possible news that Michaela Lynch, the little girl who went missing on Mother's Day, 9-year-old with autism, severely affected by autism, was found, and she is not with us anymore. As a parent, I got to tell you, it's one of those moments, and my husband and I sat and talked about this last night, and I said, a 9-year-old little girl, and I have a 9-year-old little boy. And this is what I was saying at the top of the show, that, I'm very mindful of the fact that there, but for the grace of God, go I. My child was an eloper, and I got the help and the support that I needed so that my child doesn't elope anymore. And there's a great deal of judgment that has come out against the Lynches and, what they coulda, woulda, shoulda done, all of which offends me to my eye teeth because it comes from people who do not understand what elopement is and do not understand what it is to have a child who elopes. And I think a lot of you out there do know. So here is the positive, if there is a positive end of this story, a positive action that we can all take. A group of autism moms, one in particular, Lee Meriday, who we've had on the show before, her site is Flappiness Is, and she has asked for everyone who has a voice in this community, whether you're a blogger or you have a Facebook and can do a status, to please on Monday, this coming Monday, to show compassion and support for the Lynch family because of this tragic loss that they have suffered. And they have taken some hits from the media, some judgment, some very unfair and inappropriate judgment in a moment when they have lost their child, the worst possible thing that could happen to a family. So I hope that you will join us here at Autism Live on Monday. If you have a blog showing some love for this family, showing support for this family, if you have a Facebook, to have it on your status that you're showing love and support for them, because more families need to know risk children and making sure that they get the support that they need. I will also tell you that if you are watching and you know that your child is an elopement issue, that you not wait, that there are grants, emergency grants available from Autism Care and Treatment Today for exactly that kind of thing, and you don't have to wait for a grant phase. You can go to www.act-today.org and apply for a grant today, but do not let it go. Do not be another statistic. We know that approximately 50% of children with autism will at one point elope. We know that they're in particular drawn to water. Do not let it go. If you have a friend who has an elopement child, I know that there is a thing where the outside world thinks that you should just be able to manage it, and that is a steaming pile of poo. You need help. And help is available, but you have to identify and tell us who you are. Tell them to Act Today, or tell us, and we'll hook you up with Act Today. So please join Flappiness Is Lee Meriday on Monday. Show your support. Sunday Stillwell from Adventures in Extreme Parenting, and many others are joining together on the 20th to show support for the Lynch family because Michaela Lynch isn't here anymore. And that is tragic, absolutely tragic. Now, I promised you that there was happier news yesterday, and there was. We've been talking about going to Autism Vote and checking out your state legislation. Well, the North Carolina Autism Insurance Bill sailed out of the House and is on its way to the Senate yesterday. Overwhelming vote, 105-7. Now, I want to celebrate the 105 people who voted and said this is a priority, that children with autism get access to treatments, in particular ABA. I don't know what the 7 were thinking, but I'm not wasting time on them, right? I don't know what planet they're on, but, would you buy a vowel and come and be with the rest of us is what I have to say to that. So we in particularly want to congratulate Representatives Chuck McGrady, Tricia Cotham, Tom Murray and Phil Shepard, and it's going to cover speech, occupational, and physical therapy, behavioral health treatment such as ABA, and that it will cover up to $36,000 a year. And if it passes in the Senate, it will begin on October 1st. The benefits will cover up to age 23. Now, keep in mind that, yes, it says $36,000 is the cap on that, but remember that there is the Mental Health Parity Act. So if your individual insurance policy covers more than that for other brain injury issues, then the federal law overrides that, and you get to have whatever it would cover if there was a brain injury. So really exciting, and this includes, in addition, the bill would benefit military families stationed in North Carolina, and there are many there, by removing restrictive laws that prevent providers covered under TRICARE, the Department of Defense health insurance program, from operating in the state. North Carolina is home to more than 250,000 active duty and retired military personnel, so this is a step in the right direction. If you want more information about your state, we've been referring to the map on Autism Votes. The map is no longer. It's now a list, and I can't help but think that it's because overwhelmingly there are states, it's now 31 states that have enacted legislation for insurance reform, and you can go there. If you go to autismvotes.org, go to the state initiatives, it does show a map, but they aren't in colors anymore. Scroll down. You can click on your state still on the map and see what's going on, but scroll down to see what the states are. It does have a list of which states have it, which states have legislation on the books, and which states aren't doing anything, which is shameful. Shame on you, shame on you. In any case, also want to encourage you, when you go to autismvotes.org, you will see that there is a petition for you to sign. They are working on some very important stuff and need a big, big voice. If you have not already signed that petition, please go and do that today. It doesn't cost you anything, and it sends a message. It makes it more possible. The more signatures are on that, the more possible that when the Autism Votes people are meeting with legislators, they can say, you know, we have this many signatures. You need to pay attention. We need to make sure that that 105-7 becomes, you know, a completely unanimous vote. So autismvotes.org, look at the state initiatives, but sign that petition. All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, our two wonderful guests that we're going to have, the mom and son who are responsible for the really delightful book, Unintentional Humor. So stick with us.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. I'm Lisa Ackerman with Taka. My
Hi.
guest here,
I am Jennifer Lucero with Taka.
Taka Mom is here in the house. Jeff saw on a TV commercial, they were making calzones, and he looked at me and goes, Mom, please make me that. Wait a minute, yeah, calzone, you can't have calzone. He goes, well, you make me pizza. Why don't we call it a pizzone? So we're going to do this ode to Jeff, pizzone. So I'm going to have Jen come on in.
All right.
You're in charge.
Ready.
We're going to add a little grapeseed oil, garlic, cut up chicken, finely cut up onion, and we're going to throw a little bit of basil. So we're going to just take about 5 minutes or so, saute up the chicken and all of the onions together. While Jen is slaving away at the stove, I'm going to make the pizza crust. A lot of gluten-free choices that you have out there for pizza crust. So I'm going to go ahead and start with the dry. Again, I'm using eggs. There are a lot of egg replacers on the Taka website. We have about a dozen different ways to replace eggs. So I'm going to go ahead and add my shortening. Calls for a little extra salt, which I'm going to put in here. And also add a little pepper. And we also have herbs de Provence that gives the crust a nice Italian flavor. Can't forget the apple cider vinegar, organic stuff, ready to go. Yes, I have all my ingredients. We're ready to rock with this mixer. And don't be afraid of dough. Dough doesn't bite. So Here's what we'll be working with to make the puzzle. I'm ready to go. Let's get this party started. So what we're going to do next is roll out the dough. I like to be rolling in the dough, but we're going to roll out the dough instead. So let's go ahead and get started here with that. So again, you see me using the parchment paper all the time. Love this stuff. It's basically unbleached, ready to go. It's just going to make life a lot easier on your rolling pin. You don't need to coat it or anything, which is a lot easier. But I swear I should buy that by the gross ton. So the pizzones, this basically makes 2 big pizzones. I'm going to take half of the dough and roll it out. Half of the other dough will be for the other pizzone that we're going to make in just a little bit. So you want to do, you're not making a pie crust, you're kind of making a long oval shape. So we're going to try to make a shape where I'm going to basically roll this over with all the yummy fillings. And so any combination or variation thereof, this sauce, just real simple, is organic crushed tomatoes. I've added a little bit of salt and pepper and herbs de Provence in that as well, which I love. I like extra fresh basil. That's always yummy to have on your puzzone. And thank you. This turned out fantastic. So we're just basically building it the way that we want to eat it. Of course, my favorite rice-free, organic, dairy-free, soy-free cheese. It's going to pop off the sides.
Okay.
I'm not afraid of popping out the sides. So that's the beauty of the parchment paper. Once you're done, you just flip it over and peel it back. So I'm just taking a fork now and going around the edges. It looks so pretty.
It looks really nice.
So for 400 degrees, we're going to go for about 25 minutes. You want it golden brown. And because we cooked everything pretty much already, you're not worried about not having everything fully cooked. So look how cute those look.
Looks great.
Like those 4 happy people right there. This weighs a ton. So let's go to the magic oven. Pull out our finished product. And voila!
Good.
Oh my gosh,
looks
this
beautiful.
is so yummy. There's nothing better than a little Jeff Ackerman pizzone. And this is going to be nuclear hot, but we'll go ahead and cut it open so you can. Oh my gosh, this is going to taste so good
That
later on
looks
for
great.
your kids.
Yum.
Feedback, keep it coming. Thank you for helping, Jen.
Thank you for having me.
And thank you for joining us. Come back to Autism Live. We'll keep doing allergy-friendly cooking classes. If you have any suggestions or things that you would like to see us make, bring it on. You can reach us at autismlive@gmail.com or Facebook.
Love the Facebook.
I know, too much for me. Facebook, so facebook.com/autismlive, or thousands of taco recipes ready to go. Basically go to Taco Now, TACANOW.org. And we'll see you next time.
You say howdy, we say hi. Let's get rowdy, let's get wild. Let's get wild.
Welcome back to Autism Live. As promised, our very special guests in the studio are the mom and son team who are responsible for this great little book, Unintentional Humor. We've talked about this before on the show because this is an awesome book, and we're going to talk about this. So we are joined right now by Brent and Linda Anderson, mom and son. So great to have you guys here.
Great to be here.
We've met you guys when we've been out and about. We've seen you at the Autism Walk, and we've been at events that you guys have been at. And so it's always a thrill to see you guys. And this is our first time having you here in the studio.
Yes.
It's a thing that's time has come.
Finally, we're excited to be here.
And we're excited to have you here. So first of all, this is an amazing book, and it's Unintentional Humor, Celebrating the Literal Mind. All right, Mom, tell us why you're saying the literal mind.
The literal mind. The reason this book came to be was when Brent was at about, we were just talking about how he didn't get an actual formal autism diagnosis until he was 13, but he had other diagnoses that were really right on. I mean, the first was sensory integration dysfunction and auditory processing disorder. So he started with speech and OT at about age 3. And around 4 or 5 years old, his speech therapist said, Linda, you cannot, he doesn't get it. You know, he's not processing language. He's processing it all literal. Okay. And that's very common. So
it is common.
We need to teach him the meanings of some of these expressions and phrases and things that people are saying because he's not understanding. And I said, well, he's a visual learner. Yeah. He needs a book. Yeah. What's the book that I can teach him? And so I got a book on idioms.
Right.
Okay. It was like reading the dictionary. Yeah. It made absolutely no sense to him. It was just like words and words and words, and it just was very flat. I said, he needs pictures. Yeah. He learns in pictures. So I said, we need to write this book, his speech therapist and I. It took 20 years, and we did it. And finally, it's been out for about a year and a half, and we are just having so much fun with it.
And so, Brent, how old are you now?
27.
27. And so this book, it's got a bunch of pictures in it, right?
Yes.
And each picture represents what?
A different idiom, expression, nouns, and stuff like that.
So is it safe to say that when you were younger, if somebody used a phrase, that you thought of the literal translation of the phrase instead of what it actually meant?
Yes.
Do you still think that way, or having done this, do you now think of it in a different way?
I do think of it literally, but now I have the ability to ask what it means.
Okay.
In the past, when I was younger, I always had like meltdowns and all that stuff because I didn't understand what was going on.
Might as well have been somebody speaking another language, right? If you don't understand what's going on. Okay, so we're going to show some of the drawings from the book, and then we'll go back and talk about a bunch more. But it's. I just want to point out that this is a lovely book, and this is a lovely book to give as a gift. There is humor in this book that's quite fun, but it's also a great book for quizzing things and for teaching a child what all the, because I think there are a lot of phrases in here that you wouldn't necessarily think to teach your child. Like you couldn't possibly think of all of them, and then they come up in conversation, right?
Absolutely, and that happens a lot still. Yeah. And I do want to plug the back of the book has definitions, and so you can see what it actually means when somebody says time flies when you're having fun. You know, to Brent, well, what does that mean? But so you can actually use this for teaching. A lot of teachers love this book. It's being used in a lot of schools, and we recommend. A lot of speech therapists love it. You know, just regular ed teachers are using this book because they teach approximately 3rd and 4th graders are learning the concept of idioms, and so we're working. There's we're never going to run out of material. Believe me, there's 25,000 idioms in the link.
So are there plans for a new book?
Yeah, that's what we're doing this summer. We're about halfway through the second book, and we're working on a workbook that kids can use that does teaching and some fun like matching and definitions and coloring, and so really fun stuff.
Love it. So are you going to quiz me?
Yes, I am.
And you're going to see, because some of these are going to be hard for me. I'm just going to say. So what are we going to? And you've got them that you're going to show them on the camera.
Yes.
And I'm going to see if I can guess what it is. So there's the picture.
You start easy.
Start easy.
Start easy.
Oh no, I'm in grave trouble then. And hopefully our viewers can see. So I see a bunch of cats and dogs and an umbrella. So raining cats and dogs. Am I right? Okay, good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, what's my next one? Are we getting harder now?
A little bit harder.
A little harder.
Okay, so I see a guy, and he's got some fins hanging out of his mouth, so frog in your throat.
Yes.
Okay, great.
All right. The next one is on your T-shirt.
The next one is on my
Now, see, and
T-shirt.
I looked at this before, and surfing the web.
Yes.
Surfing the web. I didn't get it before, but I get it now. Okay. I have to really think these through. I have to be honest. But and I have to say, we have this book at home, and my son loves this. He loves figuring these out.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, my gosh. So they're riding a car up a wall and saying, go, go, go. Oh, you're driving me up the wall.
Yes.
Okay.
What did you think about when you heard that, Brent?
When I first heard that, I thought, how are we going to get the car into the house to drive up the wall?
Of course. And so when you started to do this was a collaboration for the two of you, and you had somebody else do the cartoons for you. But so did you sit down and make the list of words and then ask him, what is it you visualize when this happens?
I actually started writing down the stories when he was younger.
Okay.
So, I mean, the idea came about when he was about 5 with his speech therapist and I. We actually sat around the swimming pool one day, and our kids were playing and saying, oh my gosh, and then things would happen, and Brent would tell, I'd see him frustrated with something, or I'd say, gosh, he doesn't know what that is. And so I started writing stories down, but then I I didn't want to write a book about Brent. I wanted to write a book with Brent, because without Brent's input, it doesn't really mean as much.
Nope.
So about the time he was graduating from high school, I told him I had been writing these stories down. What did he think? Would it be okay to work on this?
And I accepted.
Very cool.
And he's been having a great time. Now we're doing a lot of speaking. So this is I'm going to give.
And we're going to talk about the speaking in a minute. But you got one more for me?
We have two more. For
okay,
me.
I can't.
These
are kind of fun.
Yeah, it's like a brain teaser.
Okay. Let the cat out of the bag.
Yes. And when I first heard this story, I was concerned there was a cat stuffed in a bag. I was really concerned for its safety. I thought I was suffocating in there. So a lot of these...
something that we wouldn't necessarily think about. And, so often people may have an assumption that if you're on the autism spectrum that you don't have empathy and you don't have care. And yet I think the exact opposite is true, but maybe sometimes they can't express it. So imagine you were able to say to your mom, I'm worried about the cat in the bag, right? I'm worried about the safety...
He didn't tell me that.
Oh,
no.
So you're just walking around with anxiety.
Huge anxiety, and his passionate and his obsessional passion is still animals. And so a lot of these expressions have to do with animals.
Yeah.
Wild goose chase.
Baseball bat.
He envisioned them playing baseball with a bat, and he was worried that the bat was hurt, but he didn't have the language skills to tell me he was upset. He was just inside of himself, worried, stressed out, anxious, and really concerned. I mean, this, you wonder why sometimes they seem checked out. Well, I think they're just so lost in their
trying to process
their thought.
And we always get people writing in and saying, my child has such a level of anxiety, but if you're not able to process things, I mean, who would think that you would be anxious about something like that? Really great to realize that, some of the words that we choose can create that. Okay, you've got
we're going to give you this hard one.
Oh, no.
Right.
Okay, so punching a grocery bag. Wow. She's punching a bag. Am I anywhere near it?
Yeah, a lot of people guess that. But.
If you need a hint, I can give you a hint.
Okay, give me a hint.
It's what you want to do when you're tired.
Oh, hit the hay.
Or
hit the sack. All right, there we go. Hit the sack. Very cool.
A great one, too, right? We say that all the time. I mean, what we've learned in writing this book and talking to people and going out is how many expressions we see constantly that they don't understand. I mean, I've even had Brent, that's not even related to the book, say, I'm never going to drive a car. Oh. Because he hears me in the car complaining about all the drivers and how it's crazy, and I'm always... emoting about something that's happening while I'm driving, and he's taken all of that into himself and said, well, I'm never going to do that.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting?
So really, we're making such an impression on them.
Yeah.
And I think even more so if they're less verbal.
Yeah.
Because they're hearing, their minds are amazing. They're so intelligent, and they hear and process it all.
Yeah.
They can't really put it into what category.
Absolutely.
And, it's really interesting.
I'm just really making a connection too that I grew up in upstate New York, but my family of origin is from Midwest, and we have an expression that we use, speaking colorfully, which is not necessarily using swear words, but that you just have expressions for things that are different. I don't ever say that I'm tired. I might say, I'm dragging 3 horses behind me, right? Speaking colorfully, and yet I never.
What would you think of that, right? Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Or my dogs are killing me. We don't ever say.
Absolutely.
And I'm just realizing as an autism parent that's making my son's ability to access language that much more difficult.
Absolutely. And
although now he's speaking colorfully.
Oh, well, see, now, so what's really evolved from all of this was supposed to be a learning tool. Oh, a way to teach somebody with a literal mind what they mean. But now it's become so much more, and it's about how important humor is in our lives.
Yeah.
Especially raising a child on the spectrum or any child with special needs. I've always had a good sense of humor, but I've become even more aware of how important that is in my life just to get through the day.
Yeah.
And I know that, if you're a young parent, just getting the diagnosis, it's scary and frightening, but this is the most amazing human you could ever get to know, and to have raised him and see his mind is just amazing.
Yeah.
He brings humor in our life because he's thinking what you're thinking.
Right.
You're saying, Shannon's really dragging 3 horses. But what a great sense of humor to get go and to see his interpretation and my interpretation, how different they are, and it's so great to find the humor in that. And
it's just an empowering way of looking at something in a different way. And what we've learned on this journey is that it's important to look at things in different ways, right?
That's absolutely our message, is to increase awareness about all that.
Absolutely. We should take a short break, and when we come back, we want to talk with you, Brent, because now you're on the speaker circuit and you're doing a lot of speaking. And so we want to know what that's all about and how people can book you as a speaker, and also how people can get this book. Really quickly, where can they get the book?
Right now, the best way to get it is on our website, which is unintentionalhumor.com.
Okay.
We sell the book in 2 versions. You're holding the traditional binding, and then we also have spiral binding.
Okay.
They're $11.95 and $12.95. We offer them for free shipping. They're also available in some bookstores, and they are available on Amazon. But we love to give, if you order from us, they're autographed. And we also offer them at wholesale pricing. So any bookstores that want to carry them, any schools that want them, anyone that wants to get the book. Our goal is to get this. I would love this book in everybody's hand. I'd like one in every classroom around the country.
Absolutely.
People that don't know anything about autism get a little bit of an intro, and just to how their processing is different.
Absolutely.
But also how amazing they are, right? This great child that we didn't know it would do much is changing people's perspective of the world. It's so great.
And it's a great gift. I have to point that out, because there's nobody that you could give this to that it would be inappropriate to. If you're giving it to friends that are completely neurotypical and their kids are neurotypical, it's awesome to look at the pictures and figure out. So it's like a quiz thing. And all kids need to be taught phrases and understand what they mean. So it's a really great, it's fun. There's a phrase in the industry about bathroom books.
Yes.
A great book to put on the back of your toilet. I'm sorry to be, like, I speak colorfully, but it's great to have one, in your guest bathroom, to put it there. I'm sure you'll get people who go, this is the coolest book. And if somebody does have a child on the spectrum, it's a great teaching tool.
Absolutely.
Give it to a teacher. Super, super duper gift.
Awesome gift.
And raises awareness. So we're going to take a break. Then we're going to come back and talk with Brent about these speaking engagements. I can't wait to hear about it. Stick with us.
Every child with autism deserves a bright future.
Without further clarification, the Affordable Care Act could actually result in less benefits for individuals with autism spectrum disorders.
We urge Catherine Sebelius to clarify the Affordable Health Care Act.
She can make one change, one little minor change, to make applied behavioral analysis be part of the health care plan.
By signing this petition, you are protecting the healthcare benefits of individuals with autism spectrum disorders.
We need to make sure
that we are heard
and seen.
Sign the petition at autism-live.com.
Here's how you can show your infinite support. Create your own infinity ribbon. What you're going to do is take a ribbon that's been cut about 8 inches long, and you're going to grab one end and then twist it, and then take the 2 ends and join them together, and then tape it together. And then I'm going to flip it around and take another piece of tape, and what I have is double-sided sticky tape. Squeeze down. You have your very own infinity ribbon.
With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite.
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 With ABA,
the possibilities are infinite. Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with our very special guests, the authors and creators of Unintentional Humor, Celebrating the Literal Mind. We've got Linda Anderson, and we've got Brent Anderson, who's here with us. And we said before the break that you are starting to do speaking engagements now. So tell me about what you're speaking about.
Well, we're improving awareness of our book. We're advertising our book and also our foundation that we are starting up. The foundation is to help young adults with those who have autism discover their talents, and we support groups that help those young adults out, because most young adults don't get services very much anymore like kids do. So
you're 27.
Yes.
And so you know firsthand that there isn't a lot of stuff out there for you, right?
Right.
But we were talking during the break that you guys have been very involved with Art of Autism, and we've, had them and featured them before on the show, a wonderful organization that does a lot of things. But is there anything else after you turned like 19 that's been really influential, that's been services for you?
Well, the ARC services that are here in California have really been a great help, and I live at a program called Training for Independent Living that helps me with life skills, well, not so much shopping, but
well, that's a life skill. I count that as a life skill. Some of us count it as a job and a hobby, depending on right.
And cooking and money management and social skills and stuff like that.
So you are not living at home anymore, then?
No, I'm living on my own. I have a roommate at DIL, and so.
That's amazing.
But that's kind of the reason I came out here. I used to live in Colorado, and by the time I turned 21, I was pretty much done. There was no services available for us in Colorado, so that's why I moved out to California to get services.
So obviously, you're a really good spokesperson for how important it is to get those services after the age of 21.
Yes.
I can't imagine how magical it is for people to hear you speak and to hear you talk about, the kinds of things that you've been able to do. Mm-hmm. What do you think, and I'm going to really put you on the spot here, it's okay to say I don't know, and it's okay to think about it, and we can come back to it, but what do you think was the biggest thing that has helped you to be so successful?
Well, I just think it's bringing awareness of how people communicate differently, and to accept that, and for a lot of parents and teachers, I really open their eyes to, and give some parents even compliment on how they have hope through me, because
absolutely,
I've been a real big role model for a lot of people with autism.
Absolutely.
And families who have kids with autism.
Absolutely. Now, he didn't get his diagnosis till 13,
right.
But you mentioned that there were a lot of other diagnoses along the way, that it sounded like, it was everything in the neighborhood of, but nobody was using the word autism.
Correct.
And you had mentioned to me before we went on the air that you attribute that to the year in which he got the diagnosis.
Well, yeah, I think Brent was born in 1986, and I know that I believe it was the DSM-4 or whichever one came out, the 3R, I think it was, that came out in 1994.
Oh, okay.
Talking about Asperger's and more of the spectrum of autism.
Right.
That was when Brent was 8 years old at that point.
Wow.
So at that point, he had the diagnosis of PDD and OS.
Right.
That was it had moved from sensory integration issues, which were just really intense, the tactile, all of that. So that was started at 3. Then did the ADD kind of, and then a really great diagnosis that I found. I mean, I did all this on my own. You have to know there was no magic box or person.
There wasn't even internet.
It wasn't no internet. When I heard the word, when someone told me something about Asperger's syndrome, there was one website. There was one that I found, and that was in 95. But one of the best diagnoses he had was auditory processing disorder, and that really, really brought to light a lot of this processing issue and the language. And I will probably say that he had his hearing checked 10 times. I mean, he had a lot of ear infections. I was convinced he didn't hear right or hear properly. His hearing was fine. He wasn't processing.
Yeah.
And that's what this is really about. If you have a child that's hearing but maybe not understanding, there's multiple things going on. One is the auditory processing issues. The other is the language we're using and the literal interpretation. I mean, it kind of all fits together.
Yeah.
So that really helped a lot when he got the diagnosis of the auditory processing, because it really brought awareness to what he was able to understand and what he was hearing. And so that really helped. The PDD and OS was kind of a like, we don't know what this is. We know what it is. You know, it's like that really led to the autism diagnosis, because from there I kept pushing and pushing and saying there's more, and found some studies. He was actually able to begin some studies at the University of Colorado. And they really didn't have a test or a way to diagnose, but when he qualified to be in the studies, that's kind of was a process of elimination that this child is on the autism spectrum.
Wow.
And it really helped. I mean, I think getting that diagnosis is the key for getting them the right treatments, getting them therapies, getting them the services, things he was already getting. But had we known earlier, it would have just been that much better, I think.
And so you eventually made a decision to leave Colorado and to come to California so that you had access to more services?
Yes, we did.
I need for people to hear that, because we talk about all the time, you know, parents... There is a thing in our community where people feel like they don't have access to things, and that it comes down to, and we talk about it even here because I know sometimes it does, it comes down to dollars, and sometimes it comes down to proximity. And I've been saying to parents all week long that what I see in parents like yourself is that steely determination of, I've run into an obstacle, I'm not going to sit down and go, well, that's it then.
Absolutely.
That you become problem solvers.
Absolutely.
That you go, okay, so what can I do? What can I do about this? Who does have it? How do I get there?
Absolutely. And I understand that the parents that, you know, we all have our we're busy, we're working, we have other children. Brent has a younger sister, but if I'm not going to fight for my child and get him every single possible thing he can get, nobody else is going to.
Yeah.
And I've never been an angry, bitter parent that was mad at the system. I just said, what can I do to fix the system?
Yeah.
How can I help change the system? Because I know if it's going to benefit Brent, it's going to benefit other kids as well. And so don't take a negative or a negative response as, oh, well, that's not an option. It can be an option. You may have to be creative in figuring out how you're going to get there, but it can be an option. And I go to a lot of conferences, we do a lot of things, and there's a lot of parents that they want to fight the system and sue the school district and all of this stuff, and and how do you get people to your kids' IEP meetings? I always said, I got kids to my IEP meetings because I brought food.
Yeah.
You know, be nice. How can I work with you to make this work?
Yeah.
How can I help you? And what can be done? Yeah. You know, sometimes it's as little as, hey, let me plan a little fundraiser so we can get those noise canceling headphones into the school so that all the kids can use it, not just Brent. So those are the kind of things I did when Brent was younger that I know today. Now I'm standing up against housing issues and services, and what can we get for him? What are the options for Brent as an adult?
Yeah.
Again, now we're changing the system now.
Yeah.
That's not working, so we've got to fix that. We're going to keep going and going, and the battle's never over, but it's really not a battle. It's really a journey, and it can be a wonderful journey if you see it that way.
Yeah.
And I totally believe in just keep checking and keep looking. And I recommend people to, their internet's amazing, but connect with some other parents that have already been through there. Maybe kids are further along in the system.
Yeah.
Like we're sometimes 10, 15 years, Brent's 10 or 15 years older than most of the parents we're meeting.
Yeah.
We have a lot to offer. And I would love to, anyone can email me, call me, whatever you want to do. My number's on my website, my email. I am a good person to contact if you have any questions. Shannon, you're the most amazing person to contact. I mean, there's just so many people.
But I mean, but I'm the conduit. I can connect people to other people, and I get that. That's my place here. But because people did that for me, and I have access on behalf of everybody. But I think it is important to connect with other people and not waste the energy to reinvent the wheel.
Absolutely.
But I look at people such as yourself, and I'm in awe because you had to be a pioneer 15 years ago, and you have to be a pioneer now. And I applaud you that you're not bitter about that, because I would be. I just would be. I would be like, really? I got to do this again? I got to find the way for all of you again?
Well, I don't know that. I have my moments, but I'd say that 90% of the time it's just a process, and I'm doing it really out of the love of my son.
Yeah.
And if it helps other people along the way, then that's just like
awesome.
The icing on the cake. And you did mention the art of autism, and I just want to do a shout out to Debbie Hosseini that started that project. And she has over 250 artists from around the world that are all putting their artwork on her website. She's doing art exhibits all over the country, giving them a voice, and that's, the amazing talents are there. We just have to give them the opportunities, and we can do another show on that, because that whole Celebrate Autism Foundation that we're launching is just such a positive message.
So that's the foundation, Celebrating Autism.
Yeah, Celebrate Autism. My daughter, Brent's sister, who's in grad school in North Carolina, is the president of the foundation, and we are just getting our number from the IRS, and it's just a great story. Again, you can see a little bit about it on the website, but it's going to change, I think, the opportunities for people whose kids are aging out of the system, and that's our goal.
So if somebody wants to book you as a speaker, and they're interested in knowing more about Celebrating Autism, is it the same place that they go, or what do they do? First of all, what do they do if they want to book Brent as a speaker?
You call me.
Okay.
Email
me. And they go to the website.
Yeah, we don't have any.
Humor.
Yeah, it's unintentionalhumor.com. There's a little link that says inspirational speaking. You can see some things about that. We did the Autism Society of North Carolina. That was our biggest audience. That was over 600 people.
Awesome.
And it was tears, there was applause, there was a standing ovation. I mean, Brent, it's such a positive message.
Yes.
In our presentation, you saw a little bit of it. A lot of it's the quiz. It's very interactive. We talk a lot about how to teach humor to your kids and how important humor is. And Brent loves to tell his stories. It's it's a really fun presentation. And it's a feel-good, but it's really educational. And so just emailing us, getting in touch with us on the website. And we're schools. I can tell you, the kids that meet Brent. We're talking there's neurotypical classrooms.
Yeah.
They love it.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's great. It's a really wonderful message.
One of our first conferences was at my old high school.
Very fun.
And recently we went back there and presented to the elementary and middle school kids, and they loved it.
Love it.
We presented to the staff the first time we went there, and so
I think it's remarkable. I think the two of you together are remarkable.
It's really great.
And what a great relationship the two of you have. I think those of us who have sons hope to get where you have gotten relationship-wise, because clearly there's a lot of love there. I thank you guys so much for coming in. I want to remind everybody, go to unintentionalhumor.com.
Correct.
And that's where you can get hooked up with more information about Brett and Linda, and about the book, and about the speaking engagement, and the foundation, Celebrating Autism.
All on there.
It's all there, including Linda's phone number.
Yes, call me.
You know what? Eventually, you're not going to be able to have that.
I like texting. I know. I'll have to turn my phone off, because I'll have to be so. Well, Brett's the one that's the.
But that'll be a quality problem, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you both so much for being here. We're going to take a break and go to the A Word. This is the ongoing documentary being made here at the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. Take a look at what Jack Riley is up to this week. We'll be back in just a minute.
I know a cute little blue-eyed boy, and his name is Jack. Jack Riley. He got a big, warm, blue-eyed soul that makes your heart beat fast.
Hey, 2 seconds. Oh, yes. Hi. What's up? Can I have Papa iPhone? Later.
Jack Riley is now gaining attention without prompts. When first teaching a new skill, a therapist does errorless learning, which is prompting a child with the correct response. 4 months ago, when gaining attention was taught, Jack Riley needed a gesture, physical, and vocal prompt to do it. As time progressed, less prompting was needed, like using only a gesture prompt or a partial vocal prompt.
Sure, which one do you want? Both.
Another skill they have been working on is categories. First, they teach it to him receptively.
Give me food. Where's the food? Good job.
Then they teach it to him expressively, first with prompts.
Tell me a furniture. Say Say a couch. A couch is a furniture. Furniture. Good. So tell me a furniture. Couch is a couch. Say couch is a furniture. Good. So tell me a furniture. Couch is furniture. Yeah.
And then without.
Tell me a food. Pancakes. Apple is food. Good. Tell me another food. Watermelon is food. Yay! Watermelon is a food. Come here. Oh, you're so smart.
Currently, in the United States, 1 in 88 children is affected by autism. 1 in 88 means something different when your child is the one. Recovery is possible. Hi, I'm Shannon Penrod, host of Autism Live, an online show about autism broadcast by CARD, the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. I'm also the mother of a child with autism, my beautiful son, Jem. You know our old joke, guess what?
Chicken butt.
Chicken butt. So we're going to take the chickens. But things weren't always so easy. I remember when Jem was first diagnosed with autism. I used to lay awake at night in bed and pray for someone or something that could help us to get our child back. My prayers were answered by Dr. Doreen Graham-Pichet and the Center for Autism and Related Disorders. CARD treats autism and other related disorders using the principles of ABA, Applied Behavior Analysis, which is the only scientifically proven effective treatment for autism. It is also recommended by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the U.S. Surgeon General. About a year after we started treatment with CARD, we were able to see tremendous improvement, and we got our child back.
What grade are you in?
Second.
You are a smart cookie, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Do you like school?
Yeah.
Do you have any good friends?
Yeah, Oscar.
Oscar is your best friend?
Yeah.
And my child is just one of thousands to benefit from CARD ABA therapy. Across the nation and around the world, children are making amazing progress and being given the keys to unlock their full potential.
We are extremely grateful for the amazing job CARD has done in helping our daughter. Our daughter today, just in 4 months, I think is a totally different child than when she started with CARD. I kind of see it as, it seems like her brain in a way was asleep, and now that we've gotten so many services, we've seen her wake up.
Did you have some glasses?
Recovery is possible if you take the right steps, if you're willing to put in all the hard work. And 7.5 years, yeah, it's a lot of work. It's worth every little bit, and CARD's been there with us every step of the way.
I have 2 children with autism. I can't imagine a day without CARD or the therapists. They've been so instrumental in helping us with our kids and shaping their lives and helping us help them.
Thank you, Christina Big Alex.
Thank you, Jackie and Mariana.
We've tried other things before ABA, but the most beneficial thing has been ABA services, and I'd be the first person to tell any newly diagnosed family that you have to contact an ABA provider, and if you're lucky enough to have CARD, you're very blessed.
Recovery from autism is absolutely a possibility. We've been recovering children for over 20 years. It's just a matter of identifying the child's medical needs, understanding the child's sensory issues, and then teaching the child all of the skills they need in order to function normally.
We know there's hope for autism. Autism is treatable, and recovery from autism is possible. Welcome back to Autism Live. Our very special guest here in the studio with us is Angela Persicke. She is a board-certified behavior analyst. Mm-hmm. So thrilled to have you here. And I don't mention as much anymore, but you are very important and involved in the Autism Research Group. Mm-hmm. Tell us what you do there.
I am the Assistant Director of Autism Research Group, and we're very small right now, and so I'm very much involved in making it run and the events that we put together and everything.
And we had talked with Dr. Jonathan Tarbox about an event that you guys did recently down in San Diego that was all about executive functions.
Yes.
And teaching our kids perspective taking. Mm-hmm. Very, very exciting stuff. But this week we are talking about summer plans, and one of the things that we talked about in our jargon the other day, we talked about token economies. Today we talked about response cost. Mm-hmm. And I know a lot of you want to know how to potentially use these tools to the best possible ability. Mm-hmm. So you're going to talk with us first today about how we set up a token economy.
Exactly.
Because it all looks good, you know, and I see parents, and we've used all kinds of token economies along the way, and parents go, that is the coolest thing. But I have seen that when you go to set it up, there's a little, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like, if it's already set up, it's easy to run, but how do I set it up?
Exactly.
Okay, so help us out here.
So this is something that's been around for a while now, decades, and it's very effective. It works really well. We see this all the time. I mean, if you go and look at any child's treatment program, they'll have like different types of token economies. You see some with pictures. You see some with just like exchanging icons. Some are even little toys. It varies across all programs, all kids. You can very much make it individualized to each kid too, which is amazing. I've even seen these in classrooms all the time, classrooms. And so when you're going to set it up, there are a few things you need to remember. First, you need to make it so that the token at first has no value, really. It's something that hasn't had any established value before, necessarily. Sometimes there are things like points. Children have experienced points. And also some, you know, even money. Our money system in the United States is a huge token economy.
Exactly.
So there are some things that establish value over time, but for starting out with some of our lower functioning kids or kids that don't have a lot of words, you don't necessarily need to find something that has value. That's not important. It's just something basic. Also, it needs to not be able to be counterfeited. Something like pennies is not a great thing to use because you can find pennies all over. Maybe the kids find them in the couch and they're like, oh, I have 5 pennies and now I can get my reward for it.
So who we're worried about counterfeiting is the child.
Exactly.
And our kids are pretty clever.
Yes.
They really
Very
are.
clever.
So very important thing that I wouldn't necessarily have thought about. It has to be something that they can't somehow make on their own.
Exactly.
Okay. All right.
And it needs to be small enough at first so that the child can contact that reward, and these little items can become reinforcers in and of themselves. So we talk about a lot of times establishing these as conditioned reinforcers, and this really just means we're pairing them with something that's already a reinforcer. So whether that be a food item or a toy, an activity, time with mom, anything like that, we have to start by establishing these so that if I give you this, I get that 1 minute of hug time with mom or something like that. So starting out by establishing these as reinforcers is a really big step. So, you know, once you actually have something that can't be counterfeited, you've made your chart also, like something that the child can actually put the tokens on, or if it's a jar maybe to put the tokens in. That's up to you. Again, it's very...
But the main thing is that we have to make sure that right from the jump that we're this, whatever this inanimate object is, whether it's a mouse and we're saying get 3 mice and it turns into this, we have to instill this with the power to trade for something else.
Exactly.
This becomes currency.
Yes.
It has to have a value because currently, you know, it doesn't have a value other than a mouse, but it's got to have a value that's something that's important to the kid, not to us. To the kid.
Exactly. And if you think about it, like going back to our U.S. money system, our currency system in the United States, a dollar bill itself, that by itself, if you didn't know what that was worth and that you can exchange that for other things, that has no value to you. So even like if you go to another country and you see like one of their really colored fancy bills, but you don't understand like the exchange rate or what that means.
Can that buy a piece of gum or can that buy me a car? What can that thing do? You don't know.
Exactly. And so establishing these items as reinforcers is huge. Conditioned reinforcers is huge. And so a lot of times we'll start out sitting with the child and giving them having them engage in the behavior behavior we want, even prompting them through it, giving them a token, and immediately having them give it to us and giving them the reinforcer.
Okay.
Immediately.
So right away. That's the way we're going to give that thing value.
Exactly.
But where we're trying to get to is the point at which we give a couple of those stickers and they have to wait to trade it in for something, but we're not starting there.
We're not starting there unless you have a child who has experience with these types of systems.
Okay.
And that's why when you get into classroom settings, a lot of times children have experience with points or whatever system is in the class, maybe it's stars or happy faces. These children already have experience of getting these little things and earning other things. A lot of times you'll see stickers. Stickers are great, especially because they're really cheap.
Right.
They're really inexpensive. You can get rolls of stickers, and a lot of times you can get ones with like cute animals on them or something else, and you can use those on a piece of paper and start with that too, where even you put one on the piece of paper and then the child gets to go have 1 minute of video game play or something like that. And you like at first you're like, well, why is this going to work? Like it seems like the kid's just getting to do what he gets to do, and I'm doing all the work here.
There's no delay, then why? What's the issue? But you got to build from somewhere.
Exactly. And once those have been established as conditioned reinforcers, and like I said, this takes time, and you might see something, how you'll know that they have been established, you'll see the kid maybe start to ask for the stickers.
Yes.
Ask for the stickers or point to the stickers or get excited when he gets a sticker. And then, of course, our definition of a reinforcer is that it increases the future probability of the behavior. So if you see that you gave a sticker and the child engages in the behavior again after that and gets another sticker, that also will indicate that it's been established as a reinforcer.
When our kids start to get this, I saw my son do this, and I've seen Jack Riley do this too, that when they get it that, I have to earn these 5 and then I get this other thing, they're very good at teaching it to other people. I saw my son do this. If they were training a new therapist and my son would do something and he would look over and be like, where's my sticker? And I've seen Jack Riley do that on the A word as well. Excuse me, I get credit for this. Whether it's just a gesture or them, saying I get a sticker for that, they're very on top of it and realize much the way that we would be if we were getting paid per task.
Exactly.
Right? We'd be like, no, I did 5 of those. So if I'm getting paid for push-ups and I did 5 of them, I want to get paid for 5 push-ups, for heaven's sake. Very interesting to see our kids begin to understand that. Now, here's the question that I have for you, because so many parents will say, but then aren't I creating a system where my child expects to get paid for everything that they do? I have lots of answers for that, but I'd love to hear from you about what you feel about that.
Well, at first it looks like that. Yes. Your child is at first getting paid for everything he does or she does. But if you're working with a pretty good behavior analyst, or you've been trained on how to change the system, the density of reinforcement, that's what we call it, how dense the reinforcement schedule is, we learn, like, after time, if the child is responding to 1, we increase it to, 2 responses, then you get 1, then 3, then 5, then 10, and increase it. And so what we do is we create this system where your child is responding for a number of times, but because of the past history of responding to get things in the past, and maybe not every time on a variable schedule, so maybe it was 2, now it's 3, the child will keep responding without that reinforcer. And so we actually plan for this in our treatment programs. We will not reinforce the child every time, but also you can see that, or reinforce the behavior of the child every time. You will also see that we will pair it with social praise. So it's not just these tokens. You also say, good job, great work, and those types of sayings, and those become conditioned reinforcers as well. Just like the sticker, the words will become conditioned reinforcers as well. So sometimes just saying good job will maintain the behavior as well. So we plan for this.
Yeah.
We know it happens, and the thing is about any person in the world, you do start out getting things on a very dense schedule from a child.
And honestly, we all get things for doing things still. And maybe it's not as dense as what you're saying, but we all get things and we get rewards in different ways. And the thing that I always go to is, okay, if our biggest problem, let's say you did it all wrong and you hadn't pared it back at all, which you can still fix later on, right? It's never written in stone. So you can always start to fade it back. But let's say your biggest problem 2 years from now is that your child wants to get reinforced for all the good things that they're doing. That's a great quality problem. That's so much different than my child is hitting his head against his wall. He hasn't learned how to speak. We're having to buy diapers. He's not making eye contact. So I say let's run to the quality problems, although there's ways of fixing that quality problem too.
Yes. And you know people in your life today who need that just that social praise sometimes, like for everything they do, and they'll seek it out. They'll come to you like, did you see what I did? And these typical adults in the workplace will still seek out this type of social praise and other types of reinforcers from the authority they are working for, the supervisor, the boss. So this is something that just occurs in our world. It's just for our kids. We have to start from the beginning sometimes because they don't learn necessarily from the environment as a typically developing child would. So we have to start from the beginning and start small and start by reinforcing every behavior, every instance of the correct behavior or appropriate behavior we desire, and then start to fade the schedule over time.
Okay. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk with you about setting our kids up for using the summer, because we're talking about summer plans, using the summer to set our kids up for success in the fall. But before we go to break, I wanted to read that we had somebody write in a comment that's awesome. Hi, Shannon. I wanted to share some news that I wish I was jumping up and down for joy about, but I'm not. My 11-year-old, but I still think it's awesome because you made a decision. My 11-year-old third grade son with a full-time aide has been mainstreamed at our beautiful neighborhood school since kindergarten. We have not seen progress this year in his maturity, social, or language skills. We have decided, and I see that it's got the ED because I know we've been talking a little bit back and forth about this. We have decided to send him to a well-known school that specializes in working with kids with ASD and also has typical peers at this private school. It's very heartbreaking to have to start over, but we are praying he will once again improve on those skills he needs to succeed. Thank you for you and your guests for always always helping me and my son. And I just want to say to you, I feel and hear your frustration and that you wish you were jumping up in joy about it. When I think about all the things that I, didn't jump up in joy for joy about it at the time because it was the anxiety about, is this the right choice? But what I hear and what I've heard from you the last couple of weeks is that in your plus column and your minus column, the minus column was that it felt like you were starting over or giving up, right? But in the plus column, that you were going to look to make more progress. And remember, we always say that's job number one. So you put your fears aside, you put your anxiety aside, you put aside that social constraint of, oh, well, I want it to look like everything is okay, and said instead I'm going to opt for progress. Congratulations. That is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
That's great.
Your gut is still going to turn upside down for a couple of weeks, all through summer and all through the beginning of school. It's still going to go, oh, I wish I knew if I made the right choice. It's that crystal ball that I keep asking for. When is my crystal ball going to get here? And then I recently said, you know what? But my husband will get me a crystal ball, but I won't be able to see the future in it. But when we choose progress, and if you're going with somebody who knows how to get progress from your child, and you said it right here, the goals weren't met this last year. I think it's brilliant. I applaud you. Congratulations. And we'll hold hands through it, right? We will absolutely hold hands. But we're going to take a break. And when we come back, Angela is going to talk with us about setting our kids up for success. So now you know where your son's going to school. Let's talk about setting him up for success and everybody else out there listening. Stick with us.
Skills is an online program that provides assessment, curriculum, positive behavior support planning for challenging behavior, and progress tracking, and it does this all in one place. The Skills Assessment and Curriculum addresses 8 areas of development, which even includes advanced higher level areas such as executive functions and cognition, which pretty much makes Skills the only ABA-based set of curricula for teaching more complex skills, things like problem solving, planning, self-management, perspective taking, and even inferring and predicting others' private events. Skills is a 4-step system. Step 1 is to add the child to your account. Step 2 is to start assessment. The Skills Assessment is the only ABA-based assessment with psychometric research demonstrating the language subscale to have excellent reliability. Every area of human functioning and typical child development from infancy to adolescence was researched, making the Skills Assessment the most comprehensive of its kind in the world, and we're quite proud of that.
Skills is easy to use. Simply click Start Assessment and begin answering questions. Or simply type in a keyword, find specific activities to assess, and add activities to treatment. Step 3. Choose activities. Once you've completed the assessment, Skills selects from a pool of 4,000 activities categorized by age, level, and skill type to provide you with exactly those activities each child needs. Start by choosing a curriculum, then a lesson, and finally an activity. Click the information icon to view prerequisites, ages in which targets develop, examples, and IEP goals. Click the video icon to watch a short video. Once you've identified an activity you want to teach, adding activities to treatment is a snap. Step 4. Start treatment. Here you can access customizable activity lesson details, add your own customized targets and exemplars, and edit an activity status such as introducing or mastering it. You can even print handouts such as worksheets, tracking forms, visual aids, and other materials. Skills also offers multiple progress charts mapping curriculum progress, lesson progress, and cumulative number of activities and targets mastered over time. The Skills language curriculum is categorized by verbal behavior type so that users can identify progress for verbal operants, such as echoics, mans, tax, and interverbals.
Skills is one of the only programs that provides the ability to write behavior intervention plans, or BIPs, for challenging behavior.
With just a few clicks, the outline of the behavior intervention plan is written for you and ready to be printed and implemented.
You can learn more about Skills today and get started by visiting us at www.skillsforautism.com, or you can call us at 877-975-4559. Skills. Progress starts here.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We are here with board-certified behavior analyst Angela Persicke, and so thrilled to have you here. And we're talking all this week about summer plans and how we can use the summer to our benefit. And one of the topics that you said you wanted to talk about was how we set our kids up for success, how we use that summer to do that for the fall and the year. And I think that's a great topic. So teach us a wise one.
Okay, great. Well, first of all, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but you find out who the teacher is going to be during the summer.
You know, for most kids, for typical kids, no. For kids on the autism spectrum, it's one of the things that we can request in our IEP meeting, and I encourage everybody to request it. Frequently, with all the budget cuts around the country, what we will hear is, well, it looks like this is your teacher, although we can't guarantee it because sometimes they do a last-minute shuffle. But, you know, the reason why you ask for it in the IEP is so that you can have contact with that person, and I imagine that's one of the things that you're espousing.
Exactly.
And I think you should push for it. They can't always guarantee it, but when you can, this is the benefit to it.
Yes. Find out as soon as possible who the teacher is going to be and seek out that teacher.
Yeah.
Talk to that teacher. Ask them what texts they're using. If they're on a specific curriculum for it's based on the state. Like we have the California standards that you can actually Google.
Oh,
Google
yeah, they're available for free.
And look it up and see what, for whatever grade your child is going to be entering, what the child should be learning in that grade for that school year. So talk to the teacher if you can. If you don't know the teacher, find a teacher of that grade. If you're in a school district, a lot of times they're using the same curriculum, and they have to teach the same test materials and everything. So.
Sometimes they'll give you the book over the summer.
So seek the teacher out. Talk to the teachers. There are, and you know, if one teacher says no, I'm too busy or something, try another. Just find a teacher who will help you. And a lot of times teachers are willing to do this because especially if they know that they'll have a child in their class that may have some difficulty, they'll give you the books. They'll help you, or they'll point you in the right direction of what materials to learn. So look up the California standards as well. And they really outline exactly what is required. And so if you can't talk to the teacher, look at the California standards, maybe do both. And then start these systems where summer isn't necessarily a break. Summer is more time for you to be with your child and find out what your child needs to. Especially if there's no summer school, and there's just a lot of time that, and for a lot of parents, I'm sure that's a little scary too. I'm going to have my child for this much more time. What am I going to do? How am I going to keep him or her entertained and learning? And that's the most important part. Think of summer as more opportunities to learn different things too. Not necessarily what the child would be learning in school, but social skills. Look for different events, even going to parks. I mean, summer is great for going to parks and maybe having your child play with some other kids at the park, and then you can see how your child interacts with same age peers and practice some of these skills.
And we actually have Dr. Adele Nadowski is going to be with us tomorrow doing a whole segment on building social skills in the summer. Because it is a great time for that. Absolutely.
Perfect.
But so getting back to the teacher, I just want to mention too that a lot of you might be experiencing it's the time of year where we have teacher open house, right, or school open house coming up in these couple of weeks here. I know ours is next week. And I've always said this is a great time to shop for the classrooms you want to be in down the road. You never, and never just settle on one teacher, you know, so go to your child's open house, but usually they have 2 sessions for people who have more than one child at the school. So go to the first session at your child's school and then go shopping in the next 2 years worth of classrooms to see, okay, and you know, don't take it at face value. Just because they have cool presentations on the board doesn't mean, but listen to, watch the teacher responding to the parents and answering parent questions, watch how the teacher is with the child. You get a real feel for how the classroom works. Look around to see if there's classroom rules on the someplace, and then know what works best with your child, right?
Exactly. That's all perfect. And ask teachers too if they've had experience with children on the autism spectrum, if they've had aides with experience too, especially if you're in a mainstream classroom. A lot of times if you're not in a mainstream classroom, or you're maybe half and half in a special day class and half in a mainstream classroom, you'll see that there are aides with these experiences. They know, a lot of them have potentially even had some training. And I heard recently too that a lot of California schools now are requiring these in-service trainings for their teachers. So talk to the teacher, ask them, have they had any trainings with autism?
There's an autism certificate now that they can earn, and asking them that. But I always say too, when you ask a question, there's a whole bunch of information to be gleaned. So if you ask the teacher, have you had experience working with kids on the autism spectrum, and watch watch their face, right? To see, because they're going to say a whole bunch of things, but the face is going to give away a lot of things. And then the biggest thing that I look for is if they come back with a question for me anytime related to that question. Because in the past, I've had at least 2 teachers that said, oh, yes, I have so much experience working with autism, I know all about it. And that wasn't necessarily what worked for me, right? Because we know the phrase, if you've met one child with autism, then you've met one child with autism, right? But what I found, even there was somebody who said, I've never had a child in my classroom before, but let me ask you this. And they started asking questions, and that ends up, for me personally, being because somebody who's curious, who comes without preconceived notions, is sometimes more powerful than the person who believes they already have it figured out.
Exactly.
Because if somebody feels like they have autism figured out, I have a big kind of moment. Like, really? Because I certainly don't have it figured out.
I know.
How did you figure it out? Why don't you have a big book out in a TV show? And if you have that figured out, then everyone should know that by now, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's great. That's really great. Practicing our own social skills and noticing the subtleties of their voice inflection too. Like, do they get a little nervous?
Do they gesture and close up and do this?
They do a big sigh and anything like that. Look for those things and really just talk to the teachers and also ask them if they have any experience modifying tasks to help the child. So a lot of times you'll see in mainstream classrooms when a child isn't performing the way that the rest of the students are, it's like, oh, he's difficult, he's this, he's that, he just needs to be transferred to a different classroom, things like that. Like the problem child.
Yes. And go sit in somebody else's classroom for a half an hour.
But there are great teachers out there who work with those students and modify the task or include token economies, anything like this, and to really help promote progress. And you want to look for those teachers too. It's hard just at face value talking to them a little bit to find that out, but maybe asking them if they've ever had to modify materials.
Absolutely.
Also looking to see if maybe the school district has a behavior analyst.
Yes.
Most do these days.
Yes.
But,
and that's a good question to ask when you're setting your IEP appointment date. Is there a BCBA on staff, or who is the person? A good question to ask is who does an FBA if an FBA is needed. And then what happens is you see people's face, you see the glazed look about they're like, what's an FBA again? That's not a good sign.
Yeah, cool. It's a little bit of a red flag.
Right. But then you'll know if it's the school psychologist or if they have a BCBA on staff or, what the deal is. Every school should have a BCBA on staff, but they don't all.
And a lot of times they're spread really thin and they have, hundreds of kids that they have to see all the time. And if it's a large district too, they might be traveling a lot, so you might not see your behavior analyst very often. But also ask about the teacher's willingness to have, if you do have a treatment provider outside of school, ask about their willingness to have maybe your own supervisor or behavior analyst that you've been working with your child in the home or at a center. Come and observe every once in a while and talk to the teacher and ask about progress. See if the teacher is willing to do that, because that would be a great resource for both your child's treatment team in the home and for the teacher. If everyone's working together, it's obviously a better environment.
Absolutely. When people are open to learning, I think those are the best educators.
Exactly.
Instead of the ones who, I think it's great for teachers to have a plan. I absolutely think that's important, and that they say, we have a way in which we do this, right? But being open to learning more about an effective way to do that is equally, if not more important. Really amazing stuff. So, and then in terms of looking at this as a teaching opportunity for the summer, really difficult because, camps are expensive, and sometimes they're not geared towards our kids. So a lot of people are trying to do stuff at home. What do you recommend in terms of setting up your goals for the summer of what it is you want to work on? Do we take that off of what the standards are for the school year?
Well, look at how your child did in the previous year, first of all.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you'll see that the first month or two or even longer of the new year is going back and reviewing things that were learned in the previous year. So how did your child do this past year? And if there were some areas that he or she struggled with, then maybe plan for more practice with those.
Okay. So shoring up the weaknesses from the year before. If there's stuff to be caught up on, that's a priority?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's a major priority because if once the child goes into the new classroom, revising or reviewing the old material will be a lot faster.
Okay.
The teachers won't take as much time explaining it because the children should have learned that the previous year.
Right.
So if your child gets frustrated or behind in that first, introduction to the new grade, it's going to be very difficult for your child when the new material comes along because it all builds on each year. So. And then looking also at the standards, the California standards, to see what might be required of your child for the next year. And also looking at other social skills like Dr. Adele Nadowski will be talking about tomorrow.
Absolutely.
And set these goals. Plan for it. Plan for every day, maybe a certain amount of time devoted to doing these things. And so that way your child will have a structure, a schedule. It won't just be a full day of I can do anything I want necessarily, because then when if it gets closer to the new school year and then you're like, okay, we have to start this, it will be a lot more difficult.
It's so much hard when you're trying to get them back on the sleep schedule and back on the work schedule for school. A parent had written in yesterday, because we'd asked the question, it might have been Tuesday, about how do you plan to prevent regression. And a parent who is getting ready to send their child off to kindergarten had talked about using a visual schedule and mimicking what the schedule would be like at school throughout the summer. And I thought that was brilliant.
That's wonderful. And I mean, for behavior analysts, we're like every waking hour is a learning opportunity, and so if you can continue the schedule that was occurring during the school year into summer, that's amazing. Of course, you can't always do that, and you need a break sometimes too. You can't be the teacher for the whole summer, but if you do have a visual schedule that somewhat mimics a school schedule, well, maybe the child wakes up and eats breakfast and gets ready and then has, an hour of something. And then some more breaks and something else. And creating that visual schedule is great because the child, even up through 10, 11, 12 years old, if they look at the schedule and every day they know, okay, I do this, this, and this, and then I get to play with this, or then I get to do play with my video games, then I get to go visit a friend, then I get to go to the pool, anything like that. It'll just be better for your child having a structure and reduce the problem behaviors you'll see once the transition they transition back into the new year. But as far as regression of skills, you want to make sure you provide your child with as many learning opportunities as possible of the skills that they learned so far.
Absolutely. And going back to talking about the standards, because I was just thinking about the fact that in previous years, I was going to the teacher and saying, what are the two big skills that you teach in that grade? I remember before we went to kindergarten, the big thing was that she said, got to be able to count to 100 and the money. They have to figure out money. So, and then in first grade, it was that they had to get to 100 sight words. Like the teachers were able to identify, here are the biggies that, here's what we have to get on board. And when we knew what that was over the summer, it gave us a jump. Gave us a little bit of a leg up. Now, last year, I didn't so much ask that. And instead, there are all kinds of games that are out there. My son is so interested in computer games. And we got a game, I might as well say what it is, because we were mostly really thrilled with it. It was Jumpstart. And they come in different grades. And so different states have different state standards, but they're generally in the neighborhood, right? And it was a really fun tool for him. And he had to spend a certain amount of time on Jumpstart. Well, and torture. It wasn't at all. He was like, yeah, I get to play Jumpstart. And it was a lot of math stuff that he was working on that was really great. But here's where Mom fell down, is that I didn't say to the teacher, what are all the things? And I kind of just counted on Jumpstart. And the one thing that it didn't have, or that he didn't get to, maybe it has it, but that he didn't get to for his grade, was geometry stuff. They begin with all the geometry stuff. And it hit at a really bad time in the year where we had stuff going on. And it really became a problem. So this summer I have to go back and shore up those geometry things because he's going to need those. So I think getting those computer games really, really fun, but either make sure that they cycle through the whole thing, because now that I'm thinking about it, he maybe didn't finish it and maybe it was there eventually. But asking, looking at the standards, but saying to the teacher, okay, what else is in here? Because it's slippery. It's very, very slippery.
And even ask what they might have missed. If there were anything that they missed, or they didn't get a chance to get to, or they didn't have a lot of time to explain thoroughly enough that could potentially be important for the next grade. And a lot of teachers know, what the children need to learn for the next grade, too. So ask them that. Is there anything that you didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time on that I can work more on? And going back to during the summer, using token economies is great during the summer, because there is a difference, and your children will notice that I don't have to be in school every day.
Right.
I don't have to. Right. I don't have to turn in my homework. So there isn't this larger contingency of I have to go here every single day and this is my exact schedule. And so if you use token economies and build it into something fun, all right, if you finish this these 2 worksheets, then we can go do this great activity, this summer fun activity that the child doesn't actually get to do during the school year.
Absolutely.
So building in token economies to the summer will help you to set your child up on a schedule and help you with transitioning into this different schedule.
We've tried a bunch of different things during the summer, but the one that I always go back to, that my son always tells me he hates, and yet it's the one that gets it done. So that despite the fact that it maintains the behavior, so hopefully he'll never realize that, but that we have noon, that there are no video games allowed until afternoon, no matter what, and that there are usually, and it's changed over the years, but there's usually 3 or 4 activities that he has to engage in before noon, or there's no video games after noon. And he'll negotiate his pants off trying to get me to switch that so that he can play before noon, or do something else so that he can get the video games more often. But every time I've switched it didn't maintain the behavior. So we go back to there we are, we're with the noon thing, and he goes, I hate it. He's always, and we have that on the weekend too, and then he'll say, is it noon yet? My child, who is so, I can't wait until Card comes out with all the games that I know that are just really educational but reinforcing for him, so that, and there are, like the Jumpstart, there are other things that we do. We had the SpongeBob typing game last year, and there are things within games that he works on things, but he just wants to escape into the computer, literally. If he could step in, all those movies that are about that, being able to step into the TV or step into the computer, my child would like to do that.
And setting up those contingencies, like you said, and being very consistent that this is
that's
not noon yet. It is what it is.
Right.
And you can let them scream and yell and talk in your ear and try to negotiate all day long. You're like, Well, it's not noon yet.
and I set the parent controls on the computer so that it does not work until noon. It's like, what a lovely tool that is, because it is better at maintaining consequences than I am. Because sometimes I'm like, but if it doesn't work until noon, it just doesn't work until noon.
Perfect. And even if you don't want to set a certain time, but you said a certain number of tasks, even chores or whatever it is, this is perfect. So, and I remember you mentioned maybe last week or the week before the bedtime routine, and like if you do A, B, and C, then you can get this much more time, and so you can do those things too, and so you might see your children will do these tasks very quickly.
Yes,
very quickly.
Absolutely.
Finish 3 math worksheets, and then you can play video games, and it's like 8 a.m. math worksheets.
Exactly. Because and you know what? They learn a great work ethic that's really incredible in today's society. That I got to do this, and then I can do that.
Perfect.
Pretty amazing. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here with us, and we appreciate you. We'll see you again next week. And if you guys have questions for Angela, you can keep those coming in all week long. We're going to take a short break and come back out to finish the show. Stick with us.
When you find out you're having a boy, you always think like, oh, he's going to play football, he's going to do this and that. And then when he's diagnosed, all those things get washed away.
It's like that piece that's always in the back of your mind, you know, where is he, what is he doing, is he safe?
We really didn't know what we were dealing with. I wish that they could have directed me a little bit more and provided me some information.
I was a young mom. I didn't know what it was like to raise a boy, despite a boy with autism.
Hundreds of thousands of families are not getting the help they need for their children with autism all around the country. ACT Today is determined to bridge the gap. These families really have to go through a lot to get a grant. The application process isn't easy. The records, the diagnosis proof, they're really battling for their kids. So when we can give them a grant, it is so wonderful to see that they succeed in getting that help for their children. Our founder, Dr. Doreen Graham-Piché, is an amazing woman, and she is one of the world's foremost authority on behavior of children with autism. She's extremely knowledgeable, and she oversees every single grant we give. She is part of that process. People may think of autism care and treatment as simply schooling or therapy, but we provide important safety supports, things like fencing, for example. The whole family's living in fear of that child running out into traffic. I recently delivered an iPad to a little boy with some of the apps that are out there for children with autism. Miracles happen.
I got the iPad from ACT.
From ACT?
What did it say? Can you repeat that, Dustin?
I got the iPad from ACT.
We have helped so many military families, and when I think of these brave families that are fighting 2 battles, one to protect our country and one for the right treatment and care for their children, it breaks my heart, and I think we have to do more as a nation to help them.
There's not a day that doesn't go by that we don't think about it. Some people say, oh, he's normal. You don't see the battles that I see every single day. My husband does have to deploy, and when they get on that bus, that might be the last time that my kids ever see them.
So I called, and then they informed me that he had received the grant, which was like a blessing from above. I was just like speechless. I just started to cry because, without it, we would have been lost.
The ACT grant was a total miracle. Without that, they wouldn't be able to receive the service dog. So we're so appreciative what they've done for us as a family.
Recently, ACT Today funded a program for military children with autism in San Diego, the Inclusion Films program, which is run by Joey Travolta, and teaches kids on the autism spectrum literal filmmaking skills. They learn how to make a movie.
Are we ready? There you go, got it. Okay. Everything that goes into the process of making a film goes into everyday life. So they're learning life skills, they're learning to collaborate.
It was really nice to know how much they were enjoying this camp, and they're with people who are supporting them and are making them feel great about themselves and their differences and their similarities. And I get 2 kids that are working together and apart and together and apart, so it's an interrelationship as well as a camp and a learning experience.
It's so fulfilling when I get letters. One stands out for me, a boy who was 14 with Asperger's, and we gave him a grant to go to a drama camp. He wrote to us and said, "Dear Act Today, thank you for letting me belong for the first time in my life." These kids are remarkable. You know, we underestimate them. They're so knowledgeable, they're so capable, and we can change the life of a family, which means changing the life of a community.
Welcome back to Autism Live. We had a question, a comment that came in. Somebody said, "My son will do any chore, any in all capital letters, to have computer time too. But when he gets computer time, it's always the same repetitive Baby Einstein YouTube video. It's like Temple said her mother allowed her to spin object time. It's truly like a drug for my son. He zones out, giggles, laughs. I just don't get it. I tried redirecting to other sites. However, he always returns to the same Baby Einstein site. I totally give up. I do limit the free time to 15 minutes, though." You know what? I gotta say, because we've talked about this with many people about the different stimming gestures, and I think Nancy Alsbaugh-Jackson and I are on a new page with this, especially after talking with both Dr. Doreen Grant-Pichet and Temple Grandin on this, that I think you're doing it exactly right, that giving it a time limit and saying, you know what, if you do this during this time period, and it's not as though, you know, if he's doing it and he's not doing it at school, so his peers aren't going to be able to make fun of him for it, it's just a de-stressor. You know, when I think about some of the guilty pleasure television that I like to watch, that I would be appalled if some of my colleagues knew that that's what I like to do with my free time, but sometimes I just have to do a de-stress, right? So I think 15 minutes is a really appropriate amount of time, especially if he's willing to do anything to get it. Then what a great thing, what a great reinforcer that you have. And if you're monitoring it, then I'm with you. Give up on it. You know, one of the things that I used to say when I was in graduate school, and it was a very stressful time, sometimes I like to go home. Are you ready? Here was the guilty pleasure then, and then you'll know like the level of what I'm talking about. I loved to watch Charles in Charge. Okay? I mean, and you know, I love to see the most incredible moving theater, and you know, love to see independent films and foreign films, and you know, and move in a crowd of people that are very highbrow in their tastes of television and entertainment. And if I were to say to them, "Charles in Charge," they would go, "Are you kidding me?" But I needed something to watch, something that did not require me to think. So if he gets that from Baby Einstein and it makes him giggle and laugh, then I think spectacular. And if you're metering it in small amounts and giving it as a reinforcer for things that you really need help to do, then I say amen to that. You know, if the worst thing that happens is that he is an adult who at some point watches Baby Einstein but is living his life and unhappy, then, you know, there are worse things. My new thing, because I do love television, I watched the first season of House of Cards, and there's a character who is a United States Senator, and he loves to play the Xbox. It's like the one thing. He goes home and he plays the Xbox, and he plays, you know, horrible military games, and it's something that people don't know about him, but it's his de-stressor. I think everybody's got something like that, right? While we've been doing the show, some news came in, and I'm going to try to read to you about it and let you know, because I don't have all the information, but we've been talking about a lot of legislation here in the state of California, and one of the bills authored by Senator Darrell Steinberg, SB 126, just recently this morning passed out of the Senate by a vote of 36-0. See how I was sitting here and talking about North Carolina and why wasn't it unanimous? So we got a unanimous vote on SB 126. I'm bringing up the attachment, and it's not loving coming up for me to tell you exactly what SB 126 is, because oddly enough, off the top of my head, you know, and which number it is. So here we go. SB 126 The original law, authored by Senator Steinberg, ended the discriminatory practice of health insurance plans denying coverage of early intervention therapies for those with autism. A recent report by the Center for Disease Control indicates that 1 in every 50 children lives with an autism spectrum disorder, representing a 300% increase since 2005. So not discriminating against for the health insurance. So really excited. So that's the renewal of autism insurance for the state of California. We're thrilled that has passed out of the Senate. So good news. Somebody wrote in, thanks for your total support, Shannon. Love that you are interviewing so many young adults with ASD too. It gives me so much hope for my son's future when I see so many of these folks following their dreams. Excellent show as usual. I hope it's useful. Well, I hope so. We're trying to give you a mix of, we know that some of you are tuning in and that you've just gotten a diagnosis. And by the way, that diagnosis might be coming in for an 18-month-old and it might be coming in for a 16-year-old. But we understand that, some of you are just starting on this journey and some of you have been on this journey for a little bit longer. And some of you have teenagers and young adults, and we're all going to have teenagers and young adults at some point. So I personally love to have these young people on the show because it gives me so much hope. I look at them and realize, okay, this is where we're headed, and it's not the scary place that I thought it was on the day that he was diagnosed. So I hope that is useful to all of you. We're down to the wire here, and I want to remind all of you, Emily's going to show you some of the ways that you can get in touch with us here. Tomorrow on the show, it's like Research Fridays, right? So Dr. Adele Nadowski will be with us. And as I mentioned, she's going to be talking with us about how we build social skills during the summer. It's all very well and good to say, summer is a social time and I'm going to have play dates, but how do we actually target a skill and build it in a specific play date so that we see progress instead of just saying, important to give opportunities, right? But that's not enough. We have to give the opportunity and know what it is precisely that we're teaching. So Dr. Nadowski is going to be talking about that with us. And then we also have Dr. Jonathan Tarbox joining us tomorrow, talking about more things that we could be doing during the summer and answering your questions. We've kind of gotten behind on your questions this week, so we're going to have him answer some, and we'll keep that up all night long. So if you have questions for Dr. Tarbox, write them in during the evening tonight. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, please give your kiddos a hug from me. Bye-bye for now.